Welcome to Iron Butterfly Podcast. My name is Megan Jaffer.
And I'm Katie Hopkins, and we'll be your hosts.
We created Iron Butterfly Podcast in honor of Eloise Page, the original Iron Butterfly. Our podcast continues her legacy, inviting the unsung heroines of the United States intelligence community to share their stories with aspiring leaders like you. Welcome back. I'm Megan from Iron Butterfly Podcast here to kick off part 2 of our episode with Elizabeth Grimm. If you missed part 1, go check it out first. We've talked about how Liz accidentally got a French law degree, her experience working with Donald Rumsfeld as a 24-year-old college grad, and her PhD dissertation, which focused on torture during the Abu Ghraib release. Let's jump back in. You know, you decided to get your PhD because, you know, you kind of felt like wherever I go or whatever I do, like they can't take this away from me,
and
right?
I never wanted to teach.
That's wild.
Oh, never. Literally day one. When they do the round table of like, what's your name? I was like, my name is Liz.
And I don't want to teach.
And I'm just here to be Secretary of Defense. Which is like death in a, because you're supposed to sort of like.
Be academic.
Exactly. And I was
Drink
like,
the Kool-Aid.
that's not what I'm going to do.
So when did that transition happen? When you were like, okay, I guess I am going to teach.
Right. Do you have these moments where some critical junctures in life you realize only after the fact? And some critical junctures in life, when you are in it, you know that you are in it.
Yeah.
So my dissertation advisor, who I will give a shout out from now until the end of time, is Tony Arend, Dr. Tony Arend at Georgetown. And when you're in a PhD program, you have to be a teaching assistant or research assistant every semester. And I'd been a research assistant because Mama did not have the time to teach. And also I didn't want to, right? I'm the baby in my family. And I think the baby always thinks that they're going to go a different direction, right? My mom is a teacher. My dad is a teacher. Dad's mom was a teacher. My husband's father was a band director. Mom was a preschool teacher. My brother's a chemistry professor. Everyone teaches. And so I was like, no thanks.
Yeah. No, not for me.
So I was a research assistant forever. And in my last semester, Tony said to me, which I still remember, I don't feel like I can graduate you from this program unless you are a teaching assistant at least once a semester. Like you just have to
experience
it. Just have to do it once. And I was like, I am begrudgingly accepting this. Also, you control whether or not I pass this program or not. So this isn't really a conversation between equals. Like, of course, I will do it. He was teaching a class that semester called Human Rights, A Culture in Crisis. And it was co-taught between him and Dr. Dan Porterfield, who now runs the Aspen Institute, but at the time was a professor in the English department. He was a vice president at Georgetown. And this class, every week, they took a different human rights issue. So FGM, torture, refugee asylum seekers, right? And Tony, the professor I worked with, would open it up with sort of the contours of like, what does international law tell us? Like, what are the rules? What are the norms? And then Dan, who's the English professor, we read plays, we looked at art, we talked about what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to have your humanity stripped? Friends, when I tell you, I mean, that class changed lives. And so every week I came home and I was like, I felt like when I was in the government that I was having a strategic impact, but I was very, very far from the impact. Whereas I felt like teaching is the exact inverse of that, in which you've much smaller impact, but the impact is much deeper, like is much more significant. And so it was one of these moments where I was like having a quarter life crisis of like, well, everything I thought I knew was wrong. And so I was like, I think I need to try it. Like, I think I need to try it out. And so I took a leave of absence, and my office at NCTC was like, you'll be back. Just give it, you'll be back. It's charming. We'll have a cake for you in the common room. You'll be back. And it is still shocking to me to this day. And I want to give a shout out to my professors at William & Mary. So I went to William & Mary, it's the greatest university. They had an opening for an adjunct to come down and teach, 2 sections of international relations. I was in no way qualified to take this job, right? I had TA'd one class in which all I did was grade. I was not qualified to take this. And my Professor Mike Tierney, who I will pour one out from now until the end of time, got me on the phone. I'd had him for Intro to IR, maybe a little Nepo baby work. Who can say? But he hired me, and I schlepped back and forth. You know, I
You were in D.C.
I
still.
was in D.C.
Wow.
When I worked at the U.S. Embassy in Paris, I had a fellowship with a Harriman Fellowship that paid for me to work at the U.S. Embassy. It's in the honor of the remarkable Pamela Harriman, another icon. And one of the members of that board, Stuart Gamet, she had a house, and she was like, "You can just stay in my house. Otherwise, this would not have made any financial sense, right? Like schlepping back and forth on 95." It was the most transformative experience of my life. It was incredible. Also, to teach international relations in the class that you took international relations,
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's the stuff of dreams.
It
It was
is.
amazing. And I've been thinking a lot about the butterfly effect and the ways in which,
Gonna
like,
go
know.
there.
No,
That
stop,
was
seriously.
I swear,
It's because
because
we're
you
the same
already
person.
kind of answered it. You said
It's
a little
because we're
bit.
the
So
same
go,
person.
just take it away.
But I've been thinking a lot about that because I think the purpose of teaching is to help students answer the question, what do I believe? Right? Do you remember anything from your classes in undergrad? I maybe remember what. No, stop. No, you don't. Get out of here. All of my friends senior year took a class on the Crusades.
She's got a thinking brain.
She's got a thinking
Yeah.
brain. Let's say I remember one thing from every class, right?
Yeah.
But what I really remember are the conversations
Yeah.
at 2 in the afternoon, the conversations at
Yes.
2 in the morning. They helped me answer the question, what do I believe?
Yeah.
And I think about that every day as a professor. And so my first semester at William & Mary, the office that I was assigned to was an office of a professor who was on sabbatical, who'd actually been my thesis advisor when I was a senior, Sue Peterson. And I was like, click, clack, Kermit the Frog typing away one night. And I was staring up because Sue had a bulletin board right behind her desk with just thank you cards from around the years. Now, at this point, I had graduated 9 years ago, right? There was no reason that Sue would have had anything of mine on the board. And I saw in the lower left-hand corner, as I'm literally like grading, class prepping late at night, and it was a thank you card from my mother that my mother had sent to Sue May of 2002 that Sue had kept for, at this point, a decade. And it was to thank her because my parents had gotten separated, actually when I was living in France. They'd gotten separated that summer in between my junior and senior year. That was still a time in my life in which I felt that the peak of sort of achievement was being strong as steel, like invulnerable. And so it was true grief. And I shared it with almost no one until literally one day, while discussing my thesis about the French Fifth Republic, right? Like nothing that relates to anything. It relates to a lot, but like not the stuff that I do. I like burst into tears in Sue's office and I broke down. And she was the person I ended up sharing, like, the grief that I felt, the trauma that I was experiencing. And my mom wrote her a thank you note as a result of it. And so literally 10 years later, I'm staring at this, and my mom is thanking Sue for being this incredible mentor, an incredible guiding light. And when I say to you, like, that changed something in me. And it was a reminder that I take my role as a mentor and in helping students negotiate, like, really difficult times in their lives, really difficult parts of becoming and struggling with, like, the crazy and messy and magical experience of being an undergrad and a graduate student.
Yeah.
But there was seeing that note that I was like, oh my gosh, like the gentleness, the generosity that you show.
Yeah.
It ripples across time in ways that you yourself at that moment cannot see and cannot even comprehend.
Well, and you might not ever see.
I might not ever see, right? I mean, Sue would have no reason that I would, like, be sitting in her office, right, 10 years later.
Yeah. Wow.
Also, my mother is a stickler for a handwritten thank you note. So to this day, my children literally, like, after a week after their birth, I was like, have you written your thank you cards now? Because my mother's voice
Oh, I'm the same
from
way.
240 miles away, it
Yeah.
reverberates. Have you written it?
I'm still. I have a thank you note that I have to have Katie sign that we have to give someone tomorrow.
Yes, for everything.
I really like important.
I
It's
give
so
my students
important.
pro tips all the time, and one of my pro tips is you always write a handwritten thank you note. It can make a big difference.
I got my first job because I wrote a handwritten.
But
thank you note.
but I think that is information that's really helpful to share.
Yeah.
What
I
was
think
your
so.
first job?
I worked at a company called Renaissance. I'll give a shout out to
No, but
Mikhail Grimberg.
Oh,
Megan
were you
knows. He hired me, and he said in my email that I got the job. Thank you for.
But
the
were you
handwritten-
asking her first job in this community or first job ever?
Oh, what's your first job?
No. Oh, well, my first job ever was I worked at a baby merchandise store, stocking shelves.
Like Babies R Us.
Yeah, but Bye Bye Baby, main competitor.
Main competitor.
And I was 17, and I had women come in and ask me what breast pump I used, and I had to say, "Ma'am, I'm 17."
Oh my gosh.
I don't have a child.
Also,
I've never
had
heard
3
that
children,
story.
and
Yeah.
I don't know how I would answer that question.
Yeah, but it was great. I was in the retail bath and bottle section,
Oh my gosh.
and it was, what was kind of sad is I realized you could really get people to buy anything, particularly new parents,
There's a
because they
baby
didn't
industrial
know
complex.
there
Oh,
is,
yeah.
and I didn't love it.
Wow.
So then I went to college.
Then I went to college.
You're like, here's a different life avenue for me.
exactly.
So I interrupted Katie, but we have to give a shout out to Mikhail because
Yes.
he is amazing. And I don't know if you heard your name, but I just wanted to make sure you heard
we'll
it.
tag him.
Okay, so
Can I ask a question about your teaching? Just because
I would love to talk. It is one of
Like,
my favorite subjects.
you said it's like you're helping students figure out what they believe, which I think is so beautiful. And it sounds like you're almost like their shepherd during this period in their life. And I can't help but wonder, like right now is a difficult time to be a shepherd.
It's a hard time.
Like, how do you talk to your students about what's happening in the world? And I'm sure many of them are having like crises of ambition, crises of just like purpose. Like, how do you, and just like of just like the trauma of what they're seeing. Like, we talk to young people all the time who are just feeling this hopelessness, which to your point about positivity, like you have to believe that change is possible. Like when you lose that
If we
hope,
don't, then what would we be doing here?
well,
Exactly.
and I want to add to your question,
Yeah.
which is I don't know. I know a lot of people that listen to our podcast who are in the community know that the Georgetown Security Studies
Yeah.
program kind of funnels a lot of students who graduate into the intelligence
That's
community
exactly
and
right.
national
Yeah.
security space. But so it's important for those who don't know that to know that. And
That's a
so
good
when
first
you
point.
say, when you're asking the question of like in the current environment, it has like multiple meanings.
Mm-hmm.
One of which is, a lot of people are losing their jobs right
Mm-hmm.
now in the national security or government space. And so there's layers to your
There is,
question.
yeah, definitely.
But specifically also because you're in a very niche, program.
Megan, I'm so glad that you said that because if you've ever sort of taken a magic carpet on a ski lift, that's sort of how I think SSP, or the Security Studies program, into the intelligence community, right? I think our students, so I teach at both the undergrad and the School of Foreign Service, but also at the graduate level in the Security Studies program, which is my primary department. All of our students want to serve in some way. I think the defining feature of a Georgetown student is that they want to make a positive impact in the world in in the public, private, or nonprofit sector. I think for my security studies students in particular, this is why they're here, right? This is what they've worked so hard for. Katie, when I say, this is what I have wrestled with for the last 4 months, which is, how do you offer advice and support when when students feel like their lives are crumbling in front of them? One other thing that I start from, I should also say, this semester at the undergrad level, I'm teaching a class on international law, which it's a journey to teach international law
Lively.
during a Trump presidency, right? Because literally every day it's like, well, what fresh new hell are we in today? What treaty are we out of? What international commitment did we abrogate? So part of what I say to my students is that I always start by saying, I think the overwhelm is part of the point. The fear and the overwhelm is part of what the administration wants to achieve. It wants to make people feel full of service. It wants to paint a picture that public service is somehow lesser than or unwilling. I mean, I think in everything that Elon Musk has said, there is a level of disdain that drips from every sentence in the way that he talks about those who would serve. Why wouldn't they do something more higher paying, right? Why? I think one of his tweets a few weeks ago was, or if we still call them tweets, I don't even know. Well, I was working on the weekend, right? I think the first step is that we have to acknowledge that the fear is the point. And so we cannot succumb to that fear. We cannot succumb to that overwhelm. And it takes surrounding yourself with a community of people who feel the same way. When the election results came in, 2 days later, I was in my pro seminar, my class on torture, 12 first-year students. And I really struggled with what to say to them. Because for all of these students, this was their first election. And that sense of excitement,
Oh, wow.
literally
I
on
didn't even
Tuesday
think
when we
about
had
that.
class, they all dressed up. I dressed up. I wore a white sequin outfit. And it is hard to remember that sense of like hopefulness and optimism. And I was so worried, would they be devastated? Would there be tears? And my students said that they felt lucky to be in a place where everyone felt sad. And that many of the places where they were from, people did not feel sad.
Yeah.
That they would be judged or mocked for feeling sad. And so, sometimes I feel like the shepherd, and sometimes I feel like they are guiding me. Because I forget what a privilege it is to be around people that we do think that equal rights are a valid thing, that women deserve to be in the workplace, that diversity is an asset, that diversity is part of the mission. So step one is to acknowledge that the overwhelm is the point. Step two is to remember that democracy is fragile and is worth fighting for. And even though I live in a place with taxation without representation, there are steps. I do not enjoy talking on the phone. The only person I call on the phone is my mother, and that is it. I don't even call my husband on the phone. But the amount of phone calls that I have made to representatives, to committee members, democracy is worth fighting for. And I think that we took for granted how strong our democracy was. And I think those who would seek to tear down democracy have exposed the weaknesses that have always been in this democracy.
So let's just walk this out, just because I think this is helpful for a lot of people. If I'm someone listening
I'm
to
also not saying, to be fair, that I have any of the answers, because every day I've been struggling with this.
No one does. But to your point, it's so important to have people to talk with it through,
Totally. So if I want to call a member of Congress, what do I do? What do I say?
This is a question. I love this question, because I think we often give the advice of like, call your representative.
Right.
And it's like, done and done. And who is that person? What should I do?
Well,
So
and
what number
do I
is
say
that?
that like motivates a response, or what am I asking them to do?
What is the issue that is most distressing right now? This administration has declared a war on migration. So it is never good. I will answer this question, but this is a sidebar. It is never good when you study torture and terrorism for yours to be the issues that are in the news, right? Like when Guantanamo is above the fold, things are not good in America. And Trump Stephen Miller chose Guantanamo intentionally, right? Because it is a place that is associated with the worst of the worst, right? The architect of 9/11. It was not chosen as a random holding spot for migrants, as it has been coded to be. It was chosen not in spite of, but because of its name. And so I would think about what is the thing that is most important? My dearest friend in the world works at USAID. So right now I'm pretty alarmed about the state of humanitarian assistance around the world. Is it that? Is it the way that trans people are being denigrated? Is it the way that DEI efforts are under assault? So I would think about the thing that is the most important.
To you.
To you,
Yep.
right. I have found that the 5 Calls website, so 5calls.org, is a great way to organize. It can give you a voice track. If you are interested in migration, if you are interested in migrants being sent to Guantanamo, if you are concerned about the plight of trans individuals, they have literally on the left tab a voice track that you can walk through. The thing about emails can get lost in the shuffle. But a representative's office, they have to log every single call.
And I will say, because my husband worked on the Hill for many years,
Yeah.
there are people who listen to every message.
Right.
Every message.
Right.
And whether it's valid, like they think it's valid, not valid, it is all logged, and every single one is listened to.
100%. So if you go to 5 Calls, it will list sort of like voice tracks that you can go to, but it will also have a tab of, if you put in your zip code, it can help you find who your representative is. So who should you call to get your point across? So I think calling my friends, I think it takes 5 minutes. I would carve out, we have meditation time or like Instagram time.
Democracy time.
Democracy time, my friends.
Block it out on the calendar,
9
folks.
o'clock. Instead of Pet Finder, it's like, it's the thing you do for 5 minutes every hour.
I love it so much.
I do not underestimate the impact of motivating through phone calls. So I would say phone calls 1. 2, my friends, we have lost the ability to disagree. And so I think that the essence of a liberal arts education is that we should disagree about everything all the time. Have conversations with your friends with your family, with people who do not live in Washington, D.C. I know that it is hard, and I don't presume to know everyone's sort of family circumstance, but finding ways to bring facts into daily conversation, I think, is very helpful. Teaching young people to recognize signs of misinformation and disinformation, what that looks like, I think is a very helpful endeavor in the year of our Lord 2025. My friends, protests. I think we've forgotten that we've done this before. We've done this before.
I have to pause here because this is such an important point for this audience in particular, because one of the things that we hear a lot from young people, particularly in the national security, intelligence community, military, is that they are apolitical, which is absolutely true. It 100%. Is 100% core to the institutions, to the missions that they're serving.
100%.
And that is important, right? We understand that. However, I think because of that, there is a huge cultural reticence to disagree.
And I fully
And I think it's really important that people know it's okay.
Right.
It's okay to disagree. You can
also,
still
freedom of
do
assembly is a guaranteed right if you're an American. So,
But also being in a workplace
exactly.
and being apolitical in the work
Yes.
that you do,
Yes.
you can do that and have an opinion when you go home.
Yes.
that's right.
Absolutely.
And I think we've had young people literally say to us, can I be a name your party? Can I be a Democrat? Can I be a
And
Republican?
get a job in national security.
Yeah, whatever you are.
Yes.
And we always say, of course you can, but we can't tell you how many young people feel like they can't.
And I think part of that is to get into the intelligence community, you are entering an opaque world in which there's a lot of sort of swirling doubt and uncertainties, and you're afraid of doing anything wrong because you don't know. It's so difficult to get in, and the clearance process is so long, and it is so challenging, and it feels very invasive. And so I just want to validate, I fully understand people who would be afraid of speaking out, saying anything. I also think that certain things are too important not to speak up about. I think
how would
maybe
you
it's old-fashioned, but I think democracy is one of those things.
Yeah, like how would you talk to someone about like identifying, if I am someone in the community, how do I make that decision if it's important enough for me to speak up or not?
There's a theory in international law called naturalism. And naturalism says that certain things are universally timelessly right and certain things are universally timelessly wrong. The civil rights movement in the United States is founded on naturalism, right? So if you read Martin Luther King's letter from a Birmingham jail, it is all about, not only are these laws that discriminate, that degrade Black persons wrong, they are illegal. They should be broken. And I think I would start the conversation of saying, everyone has things that I think are core to their own sense of ethics and their own sense of identity. For me, the trespass of the humanity of persons in the war on terror, as it turned out, that was a red line for me. That was something that, to me, is the most important problem that I will probably dedicate the rest of my life to understanding. But I think we can look to history for times that this has happened before. And nonviolent resistance movements are so powerful and they are so effective. And I think the challenge now, and tell me if you all feel this way, I feel like in 2016, my community was fired up. We were like, my son, literally after Trump was elected this past time, woke me up and said, does this mean we're going to have to protest every weekend? And I was like, buckle up, buttercup. Like, yep, looks like it. But you remember in 2016, the energy was, we are going to oppose this. We are going to fight. We're going to do everything we can. Whereas I feel like now the attitude is fatigue.
Yeah.
Now the attitude is overwhelm. And I think now, like today is the day that we stop that. I have thought about what I personally can do. Part of it is even in my international law class, just saying like, in the old world, let's say PT, like pre-Trump, politics do not come into an international law class, right? They're not relevant. They're not on topic. But now every single class period I have to say, this is not right. Like what is being done is illegal. What is being done is degrading. What is being done is sleepwalking into an autocracy that we will only fully realize once it is too late. And so personally, for me, every day I'm like, make my phone calls. Again, live in DC, so my phone calls are limited, but I have as many conversations as I can, and I am trying to be hopeful. I think it is very important for students to know public service is so important. If you choose it, it is absolutely important. It is not something that should be looked down on. It is not something that should be degraded. And the opportunity to work for others in the service of something bigger than yourself is something that should still be considered now. Now, I fully realize, I mean, right now the attitude in my department, in the Security Studies program, so many of my students have had job offers terminated, rescinded,
Yeah.
suspended, which is an even sort of worse limbo of like, what does this
Yeah.
even mean, right? You know, foreign service officer classes. This fight is a long one. And so I think the challenge, I remember being 22, I remember being 25, when it felt like everything had to happen essentially that day. It is important to be patient because this fight is going to be a long one.
And have
Something I reflect
perseverance.
on. Oh, something I reflect on every day. It has not even been a month. It has not been a month of the Trump
I know.
administration. So my daughter's birthday is inauguration day. So
It's okay. Mine's January 6th.
I know,
Can't
I
get worse
know.
than that. Or 9/11. That's it.
I mean,
Those three.
There it is, right? I think it is important to talk to people all the time about democracy and about hope. And it sounds very old school. Maybe I sound very Barack Obama, but what else do we have? What else do we have? I mean,
And so
we
what
have to
gives
fight
you
back.
hope?
Oh, my children give me hope. Oh, my children give me so much hope. My nine-year-old just had to write a persuasive essay in 3rd grade. And the theme of his essay was the inequity that DC is not a state. Like what gives North Dakota a right to be a state? And he's like, look at what we would do. Look at what we would do with those 2 Senate seats. Look at how we would change the tide. And I have to tell you, like, it is inspiring. It is absolutely, my students give me hope every single day because they are graduating into a world. I graduated in 2002, which was a scary, tumultuous, deeply uncertain time. They are equally graduating into a world that is scary and tumultuous and deeply uncertain. And yet they are going to continue to make one good decision after
Yeah.
another. And that is all they can do.
I never thought about it that way. I also graduated in 2002. And
Maybe we are twins.
no, because I'm a year older. I took 5 years in college.
No, that's magical.
So
That's magical.
I'm one of
45
those
or 46?
You're a spiritual twin.
I guess so.
Wait, 45 or 46?
6.
Oh,
79.
when's your birthday?
January 6th,
Oh,
79.
January, yeah. November 17, 79. We're both 79.
Oh,
79.
79 sisters.
It's a good year. It was a good year. It was actually a terrible year in
having
world
some-
politics.
I'm having some 79 FOMO.
Oh, stop. No. You too could work in a video store. Oh, wait.
oh, wait.
I
no.
did shop in video stores. I'm not that. Yeah.
Do it. Do it.
So, no, I never thought about it that way. Like, where, the inflection point of, we graduated right after 9/11.
It was so uncertain.
And yeah.
It was so confusing.
And I went abroad right away. And so, living in a foreign country while going to war was not, people did not like us.
Oh, yeah.
And so I didn't think about that. And that does now give me hope. I have a 15-year-old, and I think, like, he also thinks that D.C. should be a state, by the way. And we live in Virginia.
No
Man.
taxation without
He
representation.
It's
says
bananas.
that, which is wild. But, I think it's going to make them strong and tough and think critically and all the things, right? And so that does give me hope.
I mean, what do they say about character? Character is what you get when you don't get what you want.
Yeah.
Right? And so all the jobs that I was passed over for, all the no's, the hundreds of no's that I've gotten in my life.
That
gives
builds,
gives you character.
Yeah.
And it is hard. It is hard for me to watch them struggle because I remember it was a struggle.
Yeah.
But I think to say to them, this is not the end. every single day we get up and we do the hard work of fighting for democracy.
Yeah. We
Every
make
single
choices. We make a choice.
I also feel like, to be very honest, part of the way that I am resisting is by being a kind person. Because I think I do not want my children's role models to be the people that they see who are leading our country right now. And so part of what gives me the fortitude to say, like, oh no, we can't do, is that every single day you make a decision to do good things and to be a good person, and that is an act of resistance.
I love that.
I completely agree.
Okay. So we're almost at the end.
No,
I know.
More.
We'll have another one. Don't worry.
Yes.
We have so much more to talk
love
about.
this. I know.
But we already talked about the butterfly effect, which is usually our second to last question. But there's only one other person who's ever done this, and we were not video at that time. We were only audio, so it wasn't captured. So I'm kind of excited because only one other person in 8 seasons have brought props.
Yes.
And we had one other who I'll give her a shout out is Arlene Gaylord. She's amazing. And she had all these great pictures and stuff. She's FBI.
Yeah.
But we were only audio at the time.
You're like, what I'm describing is this.
Yeah, I know. It's such a bummer. I hope that we
yeah.
can do it again where we can show pictures. But you have brought 2 books. And so I was wondering if you could
brought 2
briefly
books.
like kind of tell us about your books.
I would love to. So one of my favorite things are books by authors about writing. And George Orwell has this quote that said, writing a book is like a long bout with a serious illness. And so I think about that all the time. So can I move this forward?
Yeah, of course.
I'm not that tall. So the first book, this book. So How the Gloves Came Off. This was my dissertation turned into a book. So the dissertation looked at, why do powerful states obey powerless laws, and specifically with regards to prisoner of war treatment. And so it looked at how the United States treated prisoners of war, World War II, Vietnam, and then the global war on terror. The book just does global war on terror, and it basically starts from the premise of who's most responsible, right? Who's most responsible for the ultimate outcome that we saw in the creation of the DoD torture program and the CIA torture program? And so I have an argument that basically you have 3 actors, right? You have lawyers, policymakers, and the actual interrogators, the ones who are prosecuted in DoD. I actually think it's the lawyers who are most responsible because both
that
of the torture
is
programs,
a hot
it is a hot take. It's a hot
take.
take. We didn't get into the place because of lawlessness, right? I think the story is often like a CIA gone rogue, right? Or
I
DoD
can't
gone
wait
rogue,
to
but
go home and
we got
tell
to
my
this place
husband about that
because
hot
of
take.
law. And so the
love
programs that authorized torture were deemed to be lawful.
Legal.
Right? So
Wow.
the Office of Legal Counsel issued, the memos that became the legal scaffolding for the torture program. So
Whoa.
bluff. Bottom line up front, I blame the lawyers.
And she is one. So like
what? Just in France.
Just in France.
She's a cool lawyer.
Just in France. Just in France. So this book, my love, my beloved Trisha. So it is the best experience in life to write a book with one of your best friends. And my beloved Trisha Bacon, who also an unbelievable girl boss, worked at INR for many, many years. Now is a professor at American. You will also love her. She's from Cleveland. She's one of us. She's a Rust Belter. She's a Rust Belter. I think she's 78,
overlook
79,
it.
but we'll allow it. So Trisha and I had been in the PhD program together, and we had written an article years ago that was, would this very public rupture between Al-Qaeda and ISIS still have happened if bin Laden was alive? And so counterfactual analyses in international relations are often, they're thought of like a parlor trick, right? Like, oh, look at you sitting in your armchair. But we did a very sort of serious methodological assessment, and we thought that we would just be shot down, that people wouldn't love it, and people loved it. Like, we got great reaction. And when you get good reaction to something as an academic, you're like, oh my. So we wanted to write a book about terrorist leadership. And so my firm belief is that you almost never know what you're writing until you're 80% done, right? And then you delete the 300,000 words that you've written and then go forward. So we started writing this book years ago. And then at the end of 2019, not a great time to move to DC or a great time to start to write a book. We started writing a story about how terrorist leaders, terrorist founders, They agree the how and the why for their organization. So the how is the tactics, the modus operandi, the targeting decisions. And the why is, why do they do it, right? What's the ultimate purpose? And that every successor that comes after them, they either keep the how and the why consistent, or they just change the how, or they just change the why, or they change both. This book, Katie had asked about the accomplishment that I was most proud of. I'm proud of many, many things. What I am most proud of is that this book was due to the publisher January 10th, 2021. Some of you may remember, January 2021. Woo, what a tumultuous time, right? That first Wednesday of the month was your birthday, but also an insurrection. The next Wednesday was impeachment, and then the Wednesday after that was inauguration. So this was due to the publisher January 10th. My daughter was born January 20th. Also, the world was shut down.
That was like when the New York Times COVID chart was like so high. It was like on a new axis practically.
It was so, I will think about, I will reflect on this for the rest of my days. We live in residence on Georgetown's campus. Georgetown has 7 faculty members who live in a residence hall, and I'm one of them. It was remarkable. But it was almost a Stephen King Shining experience, right? You are used to being in a building with 780 people, and then you're in a building with no one but your husband, your 2 kids, and your 3-legged dog. It was. And so my husband and I had this whole drill worked out where, I would do the virtual schooling for the first part of the day. We would literally tag. We would high five each other. Then he would take the afternoon. I would work. It was bananas.
Wow.
It was absolutely bananas. Again, working and going to school full-time prepared me well for this. But this book, so we submitted it. We were not going to ask for an extension because I was like, oh no, like an extension is not in the cards for us. And the reaction has been extraordinary. Trish and I really created something that we're really proud of as far as a theory about terrorist leadership, but also counterterrorism. Knowing that when are those critical junctures in which the group is in transition and which counterterrorism operations could have the greatest impact. So I'm incredibly proud of both of them. But literally getting this baby out the door, I can't even. The whole document was in a one-word document for the very first time on January 6th. And I walked out of our dorm to go down to M Street because there's like a Kinko's, because all the printers were shut down on campus. So I literally had to walk down to the Kinko's and everything was shut down. It was very apocalyptical, and they closed the Kinko's. They're like, no, it's not safe to be here. We need to go. That's, but I could have then actually eaten a piece of cake for you for your birthday.
Yeah.
No.
Next year.
Next year.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yes, I was going to say congratulations. That's pretty amazing.
But to work with Trish, she is, she's a remarkable human. Every day I learn from her. She's amazing.
We always say the only thing better than building a company is building a company with friends.
I cannot echo that enough.
Yeah.
Because when you feel stuck, literally, I will never forget, on Christmas Eve, we were literally time stamping. I would take it for an hour, then I would email it her, then she would take it, and I would take. Because when you get stuck, it is your community that reminds you what your goals are. What you want to be, where you want to go.
100%.
But to me, that's also a testament to vulnerability.
We needed to hear that right now.
But to me, and again, it's a note to, I try to let 22-year-old Liz off the hook in this idea of I can muscle through it on my own. We live in a warrior culture, right? Of you just tough it through. The secret to life is vulnerability.
No, we completely agree.
Asking for help, going to your mentor.
And one of the things we wanted to do when we started this company was kind of combat the idea that no one should partner. Forget, who you are. But if you're in a company, going into business with someone else, that's a horrible idea.
We had calls with mentors, won't name names. Both of us on the call.
What do the names rhyme with? No, I'm just kidding.
Both of us on the call at the same time, and we say, we're going to do this. And they would say, don't do it.
Or
for what?
They said it will ruin your friendship and it will ruin your business.
And then we would say, then our next thing would be like, well, we're going to. And then they would say, better have a really good contract.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That,
when Trish and I started the book, we met with someone who's like, if you co-author, and we co-authored a bunch of articles together. We'd been in grad school, we'd been friends forever. And they were like, well, it's gonna end the friendship. And not even a little bit.
no.
No.
We're
I
still
like that we all
going.
just
Yeah,
rolled
I
our
know.
eyes.
Yeah.
We're still
I know.
going. It's
I know.
5 years and
Can I ask a quick gendered question?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
What was the gender of the person who said it would end?
Men and women.
men and women both. No, actually, we got a lot of women who we had, I think, more women who said don't do it.
To be fair, I think we asked more women.
Yeah.
It's a sampling error. It's
Yeah,
a
sampling error. But no, we're shocked, and we're here to tell you, everyone at home, that it's good to partner, because when you find the right partner, it's like it's the best thing you could imagine, because it's you share the values, you share the goal, you share the purpose, you share the passion, and you round each other out in such incredible
that's
ways.
exactly it.
And you pick, like you said, all of those things, and life happens. And one day, one person is going to be down, or something happens, or like life happens, and there's all kinds of stuff. That
was me yesterday.
Oh, but that is the sort of like, no, but that is, I mean,
I wasn't thinking about that.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
I could not agree more. And we came out on the other side and we're like, we did it. Like, look at us. We're so proud of us. Your community is everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
You
And
don't
especially
pick your
now.
children. The children are who you get. You don't pick your parents, but you pick your community, and a community that uplifts, and a community that reminds you of what your goals are. That is essential.
All right.
All right, we are actually at the end now, but it's not the end forever.
No,
This
it's not.
This is gonna be a see you later, not a
Wait,
goodbye.
road trip to Worcester,
What
Massachusetts.
is it? BFF. Best friends forever.
BFF. That's right. So we're gonna finish with our final question, which, as you probably know, as a listener of Iron Butterfly, in keeping with the name of our podcast, which was named after Eloise Page, the first female chief of station at CIA. If you had to give yourself a code name, what would it be and why?
So I came up with two, and I was hoping to workshop them with you. So my last name is Grimm, right? And so one thought that I had was Grim Reaper. So just Reaper, which I liked. But my husband suggested Ever After as a code name, as a nod to the Grimm's fairy tales. Oh. So our family, I think perhaps part of the reason that I can...
I'm workshopping it in my head.
Exactly. So Reaper's a little like hardcore. Ever After, I think, is like a hopeful, like things will...
What if you did Reaper Ever After?
I was thinking
Reaper
that too.
Ever After?
But
I love it.
what do you think, Amanda?
We need a tie-breaking vote.
I don't know. I kind of like the Reaper Ever After.
I do too.
It kind of is like a tongue twister, but it's
Reaper Ever After? It's
yeah,
sort of...
yeah.
If I knew more about what I am,
Like it starts with the Reaper, but then it ends with Ever After. So it's
Maybe we put a comma.
It's kind of like,
Reaper.
what were the two movies that you mentioned? Gladiator.
Yes.
And what was the other one? It's like
Mother of the Bride.
It's Reaper Ever
duality of
After.
life.
You're
Yes.
Duality
complex.
of life.
Yeah.
Well, Grimm's fairy tales, right? I don't know if
Or
you've read
maybe
the
we do
actual Grimm's
Dash.
fairy tales.
Reaper.
It's
Ever After.
they're real dark, right?
They
If you go
are.
into the woods, you get stuck in a wood chipper, right? And this is our family. And so I grew up hearing these like, I actually, as a kid, had horrible nightmares about Rumpelstiltskin. You know, the actual Rumpelstiltskin. He like pulls his legs apart and is ripped in half. Woo. But maybe that's why I can tolerate a lot of dark and twisty things. Is that there's a lot of dark and twisty fairy tale stuff in there.
I love
like
it.
Reaper.
I love it.
I love it.
Yeah, I think we
I think
determined
it's right.
it's
I think
right.
It's right. Yeah.
Well,
it fits.
this was, I mean,
So fun.
so fun.
So
so
fun.
We've made a new friend.
Yes.
We're
Life,
going
I
to
think.
hang out.
I think actually.
No, we
But
are.
actually-
I just
Yeah.
know.
We'll
I'm
do-
telling
We're
you.
gonna come. We know where you work.
We will bring it. We
I
will
work
bring.
and live at Georgetown. Like it's not. I'm not. It's not even close.
We
to
will
being
bring-
undercover.
Some bubbly, but not the alcoholic kind. We are going to
Yes.
bring some sparkling water
love it.
to whatever we do,
I love that.
and books.
I'm never far from my sparkling water and books.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service to the country. Thank you for service to the new generation of people coming up, and just thank you for being an amazing person.
Thank you all. I hope that you realize the impact that you have. I think so much of life is that you need someone to have done it before you. You need to see that somebody else has done it. There's such a power in suggestion, such a power in opportunity. And this is what you all provide. It is remarkable. The impact that you have, and again, to the butterfly effect, it is unseen often, but it ripples across time in ways that you cannot comprehend. And so I just want to thank you. It's not easy to be a woman in national security. It's not easy to be a woman in the world. But the impact that you're having is so significant and so profound. I hope you know every day the difference that you are making in people's lives.
Thank you.
Truly.
I also want to tell the listeners one last story, which is that when we asked you to be on the podcast, you said, "Are you sure?
I did.
Was this a mistake?"
I did.
And I'm here to say it was not a mistake.
It was.
And I'm sure every listener agrees with me.
There is no one who's going to say this was a mistake. My
older brother. No.
No, I can't wait to get, because we often get like DMs or messages about like some from our friends, some from our family, some from listeners who will say like, oh, this one touched me, or they said this and it really touched me. I think we're going to get so many from people being like, I want to meet her. Like, or
I'm at Georgetown.
you're going to get inundated. You're going to get inundated.
Do not lose hope.
Thank
Hope
you.
is what we have right now.
Perfect way to end.
Don't lose hope.
Thank you.
I haven't.
This has been an episode of Iron Butterfly Podcast. To learn more about Iron Butterfly Media, visit our website at www.ironbutterflymedia.com. If you like the show, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, and follow Iron Butterfly on social media for bonus content. You can also support us on Patreon. Lastly, we want to thank our producer, Amanda Young, and the entire Iron Butterfly team. Stay fierce, and we'll talk next time.